everyone, and welcome back to Newark International Airport. Tonight I'll be flying with Spirit Airlines again, but I've decided to upgrade my experience a bit.
This is Terminal B. Quickly connected to the train.
Spirit operates out of Terminal B here at Newark, and if you're looking to check your bags, remember to pay for it during booking, otherwise they can get a little pricey. Like virtually all low-cost carriers, Spirit lures you in with very attractive fares, like tonight's flight to Puerto Rico that originally only cost $40, but then they charge for practically everything else, like seat selection and carry-on bags. So your cheap flight will only stay cheap as long as you're only traveling with a backpack and you don't mind where you're sitting. These fees, coupled with Spirit's infamous economy seats, can cause a lot of frustration among passengers, like one lady in the terminal who yelled out that she beeping hated Spirit. But you can't be too upset with Spirit for charging for extras when their tickets are so cheap, and they do provide some nice upgrades to make your journey more comfortable as long as you're willing to spend a bit more. And that's exactly what I've decided to do for tonight's flight aboard this A321. While you're booking your trip online, you have the option to select one of the big front seats at the front of the cabin for a fee. I thought it would be interesting to try out this more premium option to see if it's really worth the extra money. And here you have it, Spirit Airlines' big front seat. At first glance, you might think these are just like the first class seats you'll find in the domestic cabins of most US carriers, but there are some differences. For starters, there's only 36 inches of pitch, the seats don't recline, and there's no partition between this area and the rest of the cabin. But it only cost me $70 to upgrade to the big front seat, so I can't complain.
32-minute flight. We'll update you on the weather and arrival gate once we start our descent. Posted flight attendant's going to have some very important safety information. Please give your full and undivided attention to their briefing. Also, the face mask is still required to be worn at all time while aboard the aircraft. Please comply with that, folks. 3-hour, 32-minute flight. Good evening. Welcome aboard.
Normally I talk about how smooth boarding was, but remember that person I mentioned earlier? The one who was yelling in the terminal about how much they hated Spirit? Well, she was on my flight, sat down in the wrong chair, and refused to move. The flight attendants did a good job and managed to de-escalate the situation though, and when they walked past me I heard them talking about how intoxicated the woman was. Situations like this really make you appreciate all the nonsense that cabin crews have to put up with. Now that we're up in the air, let's take a closer look around. There's 8 big front seats on this plane, and for tonight's flight, I sat in 2F. Each seat has a nice sized storage pocket, a tray table that pulls out from the armrest, and there's individual air vents and reading lights. As you'd probably expect, there's no seatback IFE screens, but Spirit does have Wi-Fi available for purchase. I was able to connect to the Wi-Fi pretty easily, and Spirit offers packages that are reasonably priced, but my friends tested out their Wi-Fi on a flight last week, and they said it barely worked and just wasn't worth the money, so I decided to pass. But they do have an in-flight map that you can use for free if you want to track your flight. It's important to note that there's no outlets on board, so you should pack a portable charger for your personal device. Soon after we reached cruising altitude, the crew came around with food and drinks for purchase. There's no complimentary items available, so I just bought a pack of M&Ms for $4.50. They really only had some small snacks available, so it's probably best to eat in the airport before your flight if you're hungry. There's 3 lavatories on this A321, and I decided to go check out the one in the front once I finished my M&Ms. So when it comes to airplane bathrooms, I'm usually not so picky. I mean, you can't expect the crew to keep them completely spotless all the time on a full flight, but this one was pretty bad. While this looks gross, I can assure you it smelled much worse. But soon after I got back to my seat, the crew blocked it off and gave it a clean. I'm sure that there's some of you watching this who will say that it wasn't worth it to upgrade to the big front seat, but this upgrade plus the original cost of the ticket was still cheaper than the economy seats that the legacy carriers were selling at the time of purchase. Also, this flight left Newark at 9 o'clock at night and was scheduled to arrive at San Juan at 2:20 in the morning, so I felt like I needed a little bit more comfort. And despite the misgivings I talked about earlier, it was still very comfortable. The seats were roomy, and I appreciated the amount of space between you and your neighbor.
Weather in San Juan this evening is a little bit cloudy, and the temperature of 75 degrees, relatively speaking, calm winds. Now would be a good time to use the lamp, as the festival sun is going to go on here in the next 5-10 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to San Juan. Local time is 1:50 a.m. We're going to be taxiing for just a couple more minutes, so we are going to ask you please remain seated with your seatbelt securely fastened until we reach the gate and the captain turns off the fasten seatbelt sign. This will be a one and only indication to let you know that it is safe to get up. On behalf of this Orlando-based crew, we'd like to thank you for choosing to fly with us this evening. Enjoy your stay here in the San Juan area, or wherever your final destination may be, and if this is home, welcome home.
This was a really nice flight, and I think the big front seat was totally worth the $70 I spent on it. I appreciate how Spirit doesn't try to dress up the big front seat to be anything that it's not. They don't market it as first class or some ultra premium experience. It is what it is, and that's just a big front seat. In my opinion, the problem with flying with Spirit isn't so much the airline, but the behavior of some of the passengers, like the lady I mentioned earlier who was cursing and refused to sit in her assigned seat. It seems like every time I fly with Spirit, I always walk away with some crazy story about passengers misbehaving. So if you're going to fly with Spirit, do us all a favor and keep it together. And that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.